The price of compassion. The Terran humanitarian vessel Merce's Promise glided silently through the darkness of space, its pristine white hull gleaming under distant starlight. Red crosses emblazoned on its sides broadcast its purpose to any who might see it. This was no warship, but a vessel of healing, of hope. The ship was old but meticulously maintained, having served for nearly 2 decades on the frontier of human expansion, bringing aid to war-torn worlds, disaster zones, and refugee crises across a dozen star systems. Captain Eleanor Drake stood on the bridge, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. 25 years in humanitarian service had etched fine lines around her eyes, but hadn't dimmed the compassion in them. She wore the simple white and blue uniform of the Terran Humanitarian Corps, adorned only with the small golden pins that marked her rank and experience. ETA to Proxima Centauri 4, 15 minutes, Captain, reported Navigator Thomas Wang, his fingers dancing across a translucent control panel. Drake nodded. Alert medical teams to prepare for immediate deployment. Initial scans suggest heavy casualties in the northern continent's urban centers. The planet that filled their view screen was a world in ruins. Once a thriving colony with over 12 million inhabitants, Proxima Centauri 4 had torn itself apart in a brutal civil war. Resource scarcity amplified by off-world corporate manipulation had ignited ancient ethnic tensions. 3 years of fighting had reduced cities to rubble, farmland to toxic waste, and left the survivors desperate, starving, and wounded. Captain, I'm receiving odd energy readings in high orbit, said Dominika Novak, the ship's sensor specialist. Her forehead wrinkled as she studied the readings. Could be damaged satellites or orbital debris, but the pattern seems deliberate. Drake frowned. Hostile forces. Unlikely, replied Novak. The peace treaty was signed 2 months ago. Both factions have withdrawn to their territories. Run a deep scan anyway. This region has seen increased pirate activity lately. We can't be too careful. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, the ship's chief medical officer, entered the bridge. His normally immaculate lab coat showed signs of hurried preparation. He and his team had been working tirelessly to prepare supplies for what promised to be one of their most challenging missions yet. Captain, we're ready below. 300 beds prepared, surgical units standing by, and 15 tons of emergency rations ready for distribution, he reported, fatigue evident in his voice. Drake offered him a reassuring smile. Thank you, Doctor. Let's hope. Captain. Novak's alarmed voice cut through the calm of the bridge. Cloaking fields dropping. Multiple vessels, attack formation. The space around the Merce's Promise suddenly shimmered as 7 ships materialized from seemingly empty void, angular, predatory vessels with hulls the color of tarnished bronze, bristling with weapons. Unlike the clean lines of Terran ships, these were asymmetrical, adorned with spikes and tribal markings, the unmistakable signature of Krelzar pirates, scavengers who preyed on the aftermath of conflicts throughout the sector. Red alert. Shields up, Drake ordered calmly, though she knew their defensive capabilities were minimal. The Merce's Promise carried medical supplies, not weapon systems. Open communications. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a humanoid figure with mottled gray-green skin stretched tight over an elongated skull. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils regarded Drake with cold calculation. Gold and bone ornaments adorned the pirate's armor, trophies from countless victims. This is Captain Eleanor Drake of the Terran humanitarian vessel Merce's Promise. We are on a peaceful mission to provide medical aid to the people of Proxima Centauri 4. Please state your intentions. The alien's lipless mouth stretched into what might have been a smile, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Captain Drake. I am Vorthak, Huntmaster of the Krelzar Crimson Talon Fleet. Your ship carries valuable medical supplies, advanced technology, and... He paused, inhaling deeply as if savoring the moment, vulnerable passengers. All of which will fetch excellent prices in the right markets. Huntmaster Vorthak, Drake spoke firmly, her expression unyielding despite the threat. This vessel is protected under galactic aid accords. We carry children, wounded civilians, and medical personnel. Attacking us would violate interstellar law and provoke a response from Earth. Behind her back, Drake made a subtle hand gesture. Chief Communications Officer Marcus Way understood immediately, activating the ship's emergency beacon, a small black box that would send a single, encrypted quantum transmission to Earth. Protocol Nightfall, the distress signal that no Terran humanitarian ship had needed to use in over 40 years. The pirate leader laughed, the sound like stones grinding together. Earth is 20 light-years away, Captain. Their laws mean nothing here. Their response will come long after we've stripped your ship and sold your crew. You have 1 minute to power down your shields and prepare for boarding. The transmission cut off abruptly. Drake turned to her crew, their faces pale but determined. Options, she asked, voice steady. Shields won't hold against concentrated fire, reported Security Chief Nardia Petrov. We have 20 security personnel with standard non-lethal weapons, but nothing that can repel a serious boarding action. We could try to run, suggested Huang. Emergency thrusters might give us enough speed to reach the planet's atmosphere. Drake shook her head. We'd never make it, an atmospheric entry would tear us apart without proper approach vectors. She straightened her uniform, decision made. Alert all personnel. Security teams to defensive positions around medical wards and refugee quarters. Seal all internal bulkheads. Dr. Tanaka, move all patients to their core sections. What about surrender? Wei asked quietly. Drake's eyes hardened. The Krelzar don't take prisoners, Marcus. They take slaves and organs. We hold out as long as possible. Help is coming. From where? Petrov asked. Even if Earth received our signal. Trust me, Drake said with quiet certainty. They'll come. They always do. The first volley from the pirate vessels struck the Merce's Promise with devastating force. The ship's minimal shields flared bright blue before collapsing entirely under the assault. Alarms wailed as hull breaches were reported across multiple decks. The bridge lurched violently as a second barrage tore into the unprotected ship. Direct hit to engines, shouted Huang over the chaos. We're losing power. Drake gripped her command chair as the ship shuddered around her. Reroute emergency power to life support and medical sections. Get me shipwide. The communications system crackled to life, carrying her voice to every corner of the wounded vessel. All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack by Krelzar pirates. Our mission remains unchanged, protect our patients, protect each other. Help is coming. Hold fast. Through viewports, they could see the pirate vessels moving into docking positions, grappling hooks and boarding tubes extending toward the Merce's Promise like predatory tendrils. Security teams reported the first boarding parties breaching outer sections of the ship. Dr. Tanaka's voice came through on the internal comm, Captain, we have 63 critical patients who cannot be moved. My staff refuses to abandon them. Understood, Doctor. Security Team Bravo is en route to your position. Hold as long as you can. Drake turned to Petrov. Get down there. Coordinate our last defense. As Petrov nodded and left the bridge, Wei called out, Captain. I'm receiving a transmission, but it's not from the pirates. On screen, Drake ordered. The view screen remained blank, but a voice, clear, authoritative, and unmistakably human, filled the bridge. Merce's Promise, this is Fleet Marshal Joaquin Reyes aboard the TDF Retribution. We've received your Nightfall protocol. Hold position. Relief force inbound. ETA 7 minutes. A murmur of disbelief spread through the bridge crew. The Retribution was a Terran battle cruiser, one of Earth's most formidable warships, and it couldn't possibly be this far out in the frontier. Unless it had been watching all along. Marshal Reyes, Drake replied, relief evident in her voice. We have multiple hull breaches, boarders on 3 decks, and critical systems failing. We won't last 7 minutes. You won't have to, Captain, came the calm reply. The advance team arrives in 30 seconds. Before anyone could question this impossibility, space itself seemed to tear open less than a kilometer from the embattled humanitarian vessel. A brilliant blue-white light erupted from nowhere, coalescing into a swirling vortex, a jump point, the signature of a quantum displacement drive far more advanced than anything the Terran fleet publicly acknowledged possessing. From this artificial wormhole emerged not a massive warship, but a dozen sleek, black vessels barely larger than shuttles. They moved with impossible speed and precision, darting toward the pirate ships before the Krelzar could react. "Phantoms," whispered Huang in awe. "I thought they were just rumors." The Phantom-class strike vessels, officially denied by Earth authorities, swarmed around the pirate ships like angry wasps. Precision energy weapons sliced through their boarding tubes, severing the connections to the Merce's promise. The pirates, caught completely by surprise, frantically tried to bring their weapons to bear on the nimble attackers. On the bridge of the Merce's promise, the crew watched in stunned silence as the Terran strike craft methodically disabled the pirate vessels, targeting engines and weapons systems with surgical precision. "Captain," Wei said, voice shaking slightly. "Marshal Reyes is requesting that we transmit the locations of all boarders still on our ship." Drake nodded. "Send them everything we have." Within minutes, black-armored figures materialized throughout the Merce's promise, Terran special forces deploying directly via short-range quantum teleportation. The boarders, finding themselves suddenly outmatched, fought desperately but were swiftly overwhelmed. As the last of the pirates were neutralized, Drake received word that a medical team from the Retribution had arrived to assist with their wounded. The immediate crisis was over. 6 minutes after the first Phantom had emerged from the jump point, the fabric of space tore open once more, this time revealing not a small tactical wormhole, but a massive displacement field that dwarfed the first. From this swirling maelstrom of energy emerged the Retribution itself, nearly 2 kilometers of gleaming titanium alloy armor, advanced weaponry, and the unmistakable might of Earth's determination to protect its own. As Captain Drake watched the massive warship approach, she remembered the words that had become the unofficial motto of the Terran Humanitarian Corps: "We come in peace, but we never come alone." The galaxy was about to learn, once again, the terrible price of mistaking human compassion for weakness. The wrath of Earth. The TDF Retribution hung in space like a sword of judgment, its massive hull eclipsing the distant sun of the Proxima Centauri system. At over 2 kilometers in length, the battle cruiser represented the pinnacle of Terran military engineering, a vessel whose mere presence was enough to end most conflicts before they began. Its gleaming hull, adorned with the blue and silver insignia of Earth's Defense Force, contrasted sharply with the 7 disabled pirate ships now held in its tractor beams like captured prey. On the bridge of the Retribution, Fleet Marshal Joaquin Reyes stood with his hands clasped behind his back, dark eyes fixed on the tactical display. A tall man with bronze skin and close-cropped silver hair, Reyes had served in Earth's defense forces for over 40 years. His dress uniform bore minimal decorations despite a distinguished career, a personal choice that reflected his belief that actions spoke louder than medals. "Status report on the Merce's promise," he commanded, voice deep and measured. Lieutenant Commander Diana Ortiz, his executive officer, responded promptly. "Their medical facilities are operational again, Marshal. Our engineering teams have stabilized life support and sealed the hull breaches. Casualty report indicates 14 crew members wounded, 3 critically. No fatalities." Reyes nodded, the tension in his jaw easing slightly. "And the patients they were transporting?" "All stable, sir. Dr. Tanaka reports no loss of life among the civilians under their care." "Good." Reyes turned to face the holographic display showing Vorthak, the captured Krelzar leader, who had been brought aboard the Retribution for interrogation. The pirate's arrogance had evaporated, replaced by barely concealed fear as he sat shackled in the ship's detention center. "Bring up the recording from the Merce's promise. I want to hear his threats again." The display shifted, replaying the earlier exchange between Captain Drake and the pirate leader. When it concluded, the bridge had fallen silent, the crew watching their commander's reaction carefully. Reyes's expression remained unchanged, but those who knew him well could see the cold fury in his eyes. "Open a channel to Earth Command," he ordered. "Priority Alpha." Within moments, the holographic display shifted to show Admiral Hanako Nakamura, the head of Earth's Defense Council. Her stern features softened slightly upon seeing Reyes. "Marshal." I understand you've intercepted an attack on one of our humanitarian vessels.
Yes, Admiral.
Krells are pirates, 7 ships. They specifically targeted the Merce's Promise, knowing it was unarmed and carrying wounded civilians. We've captured the pirate leader and neutralized his fleet.
Nakamura's eyes narrowed. Recommendations.
Reyes didn't hesitate.
Implement Protocol Harbinger.
A murmur ran through the bridge crew. Protocol Harbinger was not simply a military response, it was a declaration of intent, a message sent not through diplomatic channels but through decisive action.
Admiral Nakamura was silent for a long moment, then gave a single, sharp nod.
Authorized.
The Council concurs.
Execute at your discretion, Marshal.
Understood, Admiral. Retribution out.
As the transmission ended, Reyes turned to his crew. Prepare a quantum burst transmission to all Terran vessels in this sector. Then bring the prisoner to the observation deck. 30 minutes later, Vorthak stood on the Retribution's observation deck, his restraints temporarily reduced to allow him movement within the secured area. Fleet Marshal Reyes stood beside him, both looking out through their massive viewport at the pirate vessels held in the tractor beams.
You know why you're here?
Reyes asked, his tone conversational. The Krells shifted uncomfortably.
To negotiate the terms of our release, I presume.
I assure you, Marshal, we can offer substantial compensation.
No, Reyes interrupted.
You're here to witness, and to carry a message. He tapped his communications badge.
Weapons control, execute Protocol Harbinger.
What happened next occurred with such clinical precision that it seemed almost anticlimactic. From the Retribution's main weapon array, 7 precisely calibrated energy beams lanced out simultaneously, each striking one of the captured pirate vessels at exactly the same point, the command center. There was no dramatic explosion, no spectacular display of destructive force. Instead, each ship simply went dark, power systems failing as their control centers were vaporized with surgical accuracy. Your ships are now derelict, Reyes explained calmly. Their life support, navigation, and propulsion systems are permanently disabled. Their weapons have been molecularly fused into inoperative masses. They can never again be used to threaten, to hunt, or to kill. He turned to face the pirate leader directly. But we've left the communications systems intact.
Confusion crossed Vorthak's features.
Why would you do that? So that everyone who passes through this system for the next 100 years can hear the message they broadcast on an endless loop. A message explaining exactly what they did, and exactly what happened to them as a result. The pirate's yellow eyes widened.
You're leaving them as warnings.
Precisely.
Reyes smiled without warmth. Monuments to poor judgment.
Across the galaxy, in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Harmonia, an emergency session had been convened. Representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations gathered in the tiered chamber, their voices raised in heated debate. The central holographic display showed the Proxima Centauri system, focusing on the disabled pirate fleet and the imposing presence of the TDF Retribution. Ambassador Thorne of the Valdorian Confederacy, a tall, avian being with iridescent feathers and sharp features, addressed the assembly. This unilateral military action by Earth forces represents a dangerous escalation. The Terrans have deployed advanced weaponry beyond previously disclosed capabilities and have executed what amounts to a summary judgment without Galactic Council approval. Murmurs of agreement rose from several delegations, particularly those with historical ties to pirate organizations operating along their borders. Ambassador Li Chen of Earth rose in response, her slender form commanding attention despite her modest stature. The Council's own charter, Section 17, Paragraph 4, explicitly recognizes the right of all member worlds to protect their humanitarian missions. The Merce's Promise was operating with full Council authorization, carrying wounded civilians, including children, when it was deliberately targeted by these pirates. That may be, countered Ambassador Kral of the Dermian Empire, his metallic exoskeleton clicking as he gestured emphatically, but the response was disproportionate. Earth deployed military technology that violated 3 separate arms limitation treaties. Li Chen's expression remained impassive.
With respect, Ambassador, no treaties were violated. Earth has never signed any agreement limiting our right to defend humanitarian vessels. As for the technology deployed, all capabilities demonstrated were within parameters previously registered with the Council's Defense Committee. Registered but classified, Kral shot back. Convenient. The chamber fell silent as Ambassador Jaan of the Etherian Collective, one of the oldest members of the Council, rose to speak. The crystalline being's form shimmered with inner light as it addressed the assembly in a melodious voice. I have observed humanity for over 2 centuries, Jaan began. In that time, they have demonstrated a curious duality, unprecedented compassion coupled with unmatched ferocity when that compassion is betrayed. Today's events are not an aberration but a consistent expression of their nature. The ancient being turned to face the Earth delegation directly. Ambassador Lee, would you please clarify for the Council, what is Earth's position regarding attacks on humanitarian missions moving forward? Li Chen stood, her voice clear and unwavering. Earth's position is simple: our humanitarian vessels are extensions of Earth itself. They represent the highest ideals of our civilization, our commitment to healing, to compassion, to the belief that suffering should be alleviated wherever it exists. Her tone hardened slightly. Any attack on these vessels will be considered an attack on Earth, with all that implies. A tense silence fell over the chamber as the implications of this statement sank in. It was not merely a policy statement, it was a doctrine, one backed by the demonstration at Proxima Centauri. Ambassador Thorne broke the silence. The Council cannot accept such unilateral declarations. There must be process, mutual agreement. The Council has had 50 standard years to implement effective protections for humanitarian missions, Li Chen interrupted. In that time, 17 separate proposals have been debated, deferred, and ultimately abandoned. Meanwhile, attacks on medical ships have increased by 300% in frontier systems. She looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of each representative in turn. Earth has decided that waiting is no longer an option. Back aboard the Retribution, Fleet Marshal Reyes concluded his business with the captured pirate leader. You will be transported to the nearest Galactic Council outpost to face charges under interstellar law for attacking a humanitarian vessel. Your crew will join you, except for those who required medical attention. They are currently receiving treatment aboard the Merce's Promise, the very ship you attacked. Vorthak's expression registered disbelief. You're healing our wounded. That's what humanitarian vessels do, Reyes replied simply. Even for those who tried to destroy them. As the guards escorted the pirate from the observation deck, Captain Eleanor Drake entered, her uniform now crisp and clean despite the ordeal her ship had endured. She saluted the fleet marshal, who returned the gesture with respect. Captain Drake. Good to see you on your feet. Thanks to you and your crew, Marshal. Drake moved to stand beside him at the viewport, both watching as engineering vessels began the process of towing the disabled pirate ships into stable orbit around a nearby moon, permanent monuments to a costly lesson. Though I admit, I'm surprised by the speed of your response. The Retribution couldn't possibly have reached us so quickly after our distress call. Reyes smiled slightly. The Retribution has been shadowing the Merce's Promise since you left Earth space, Captain. As have similar vessels for every humanitarian mission we've launched in the past 5 years. Drake's eyes widened. The Defense Council never mentioned. It wasn't something that needed mentioning. Earth made a promise, to you, to every humanitarian mission, and to the galaxy at large. Our aid goes where it's needed, without weapons, without conditions, and without fear. Reyes's gaze remained fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. Today, we've reminded the galaxy that this promise is backed by something more than words. Across thousands of worlds, news of what had happened at Proxima Centauri spread rapidly. On frontier planets, pirate havens, and trading outposts, beings gathered around communication terminals to watch footage of the disabled Krelzar fleet, preserved as a silent warning in the darkness of space. Their message broadcast from their derelict hulls played in countless languages. We attacked a Terran humanitarian vessel. This was our mistake. Let all who contemplate similar actions observe and reconsider. In the remote headquarters of the Scarlet Nebular Syndicate,
one of the largest criminal organizations in the galaxy, Overlord Dres convened an emergency meeting of his captains. The massive Trandoshan slammed his scaled fist onto the table. Effective immediately, all Syndicate vessels are to give Terran humanitarian ships a wide berth. No exceptions, no excuses. Any captain who violates this directive will be personally answerable to me. One of his lieutenants, a cybernetically enhanced Severian, protested. But Overlord, the medical technology alone on those ships is worth. Dres' massive hand closed around the lieutenant's throat, lifting him off the ground with ease. Worth your life. Worth the existence of this entire organization. He released the choking subordinate, who collapsed gasping. The humans have drawn a line in the stars. Only fools would cross it. On Earth, the Defense Council convened in its secure chamber beneath the Himalayan mountains. Admiral Nakamura addressed her colleagues, her expression solemn. The Harbinger Protocol has achieved its intended effect. Reports from across the sector indicate a 60% reduction in pirate activity near humanitarian corridors. The Galactic Council has expedited passage of the Protected Missions Act, which codifies many of the protections we've been advocating for decades. General Viktor Petrov, commander of Earth's ground forces, nodded in approval. And the diplomatic fallout? Minimal, replied Diplomatic Secretary Olivia Washington. There was initial outrage from several council members, but it dissipated quickly when we released the full recording of the pirates explicitly targeting the Merce's Promise despite clear identification as a medical vessel. Public opinion across most civilized systems has been overwhelmingly supportive. Admiral Nakamura rose, moving to the window that overlooked the gleaming command center below. Then we continue as planned. Operation Guardian Angel expands to all humanitarian missions, effective immediately. No Terran medical vessel travels alone, no matter how distant the destination. As the meeting concluded, Secretary Washington remained behind, joining Nakamura at the window. You know, Hanako, there's an old saying from Earth's history, speak softly and carry a big stick. Nakamura smiled faintly. I'm familiar with Roosevelt's philosophy. It served its purpose in its time. But you've modified it. The galaxy is a different place than Earth in the 20th century. Sometimes, the stick needs to be visible, a deterrent rather than a surprise. The Admiral's expression grew contemplative. Compassion without strength is vulnerability. Strength without compassion is tyranny. Humanity must embody both. Aboard the Merce's Promise, now fully repaired and ready to resume its mission to the surface of Proxima Centauri 4, Captain Eleanor Drake addressed her assembled crew in the main hangar bay. Medical teams checked equipment, engineers made final adjustments to shuttlecraft, and security personnel, now reinforced with volunteers from the Retribution, reviewed planetary landing zones. Today, we were reminded of something essential, Drake said, her voice carrying across the busy hangar. Our mission hasn't changed. We still go where we're needed, carrying healing instead of harm, hope instead of hostility. We still face the darkness of suffering with the light of compassion. She paused, looking at the faces before her, humans who had chosen to serve not with weapons but with medical kits, not in warships but in vessels of mercy. What has changed is the galaxy's understanding of what that compassion means. Today, beings across 1,000 worlds are learning what Earth has always known, that our greatest strength isn't found in the power of our weapons, but in our unwavering commitment to our highest ideals, and our absolute determination to protect those who embody them. As the Merce's Promise descended toward the wounded planet below, it no longer flew alone. High above, invisible to conventional sensors but ever present, the Guardians watched, silent, vigilant, and resolute. Their message had been delivered, written not in diplomatic language but in actions that would echo across the stars. Earth's mercy was boundless. But its wrath, when that mercy was betrayed, was limitless.